Duke loses to UConn in crazy fashion. Duke was up
Mm,
19 most
mm,
of the game. UConn hunted them down during the last 2 or 3 minutes. You could see, well, for me, it looked as if the Duke players weren't as confident with what they were doing. So last part of the game, the last play, they inbound the ball, goes to the younger the Boozer. I think it was Camden. I'm not sure. The Boozer brothers, but
the point
the
guard.
point guard catches it. He turns faces, makes an errant pass that gets stolen. UConn wins. Right now, the question I want to have is, I was listening to conversations about how freshmen, especially freshmen who are really, really successful throughout their high school and AAU career, they're not really tested. They get into college, and then when they get into some of these pressure situations like that was, they sometimes, a lot of them have issues. And then you look at Illinois, who's a team of comprised heavily of international players that seem to be more experienced. Now, it didn't look like that against UConn when they played UConn,
Yeah.
but at the time it was, they're more experienced. And we had a I had a podcast where people were saying the new order of players of coaches recruiting is portal first, international players second, JUCO third, prep school fourth, and high school fifth. So my question to you guys is, do you feel like that Duke situation will make coaches less likely to recruit talented high school players and go strictly through portal and international?
Go ahead, Coach.
Okay. Um, for for me, I think you have to have a balance. I think you have to have a nice mix. If you have a kid that is left over that you know is probably going to stay for 2 or 3, you can really build the culture a lot faster with them bringing in different players. If I've
Right.
got 10 new players and we've got to learn this culture, it's going to take a lot of time. And speaking of Illinois, they have pros. They have guys that's 23 years old, 23-year-old freshmen that
Mhm.
have been playing in pro leagues. Um, the Duke situation for me is a teaching moment because the first mistake first thing I tell all mine, even if you catch it and they're not pressing on the perimeter, is catch and look.
Mhm.
If you watch, he caught it, he bounced it and tried to throw it over the top. Had he just caught it, looked, maybe either throw it up in the air or bounce around and then throw it because there's 2 guys behind her that were wide open. So for me, it was a teaching moment for our kids. Like, look, um, you have to really catch and look. And I think the only person I saw that was when that steal happened that was semi-common, knew what to do was Cam Boozer. Like
Mm.
he closed out. That's why the guy passed it. Sar, believe it was Sars or somebody else who was on the shooter. He just stood here with his
Yeah,
hands
hands
down.
down.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, the teaching moment is always catch and look. So I think more so this is going to be a teaching moment for young players. I'm still going to
Yes.
recruit my top 10, top 50 kids and bring in some folks around him that can teach him some things. But I think it's just going to be, I think it's really going to be, it's going to force coaches or encourage coaches to really coach these high level kids a lot more because they have gotten away with things because they've just been uber talented. And so
Mm.
in that situation, I think it's just going to really just remind them to remind themselves, hey, this is what we're doing. Just my
Right.
thoughts on it.
You know, I'm the same. I don't think it's going to make coaches less likely to recruit freshmen. I mean, you're talking about top 100 kids, top 50 kids. They're still going to recruit those kids.
Hmm.
The fact of the matter is, you know, going back to it, it comes down to coaching. And Coach said it right. It comes back down to the first, and we had that conversation a few days ago. And I went back and I watched it again, and even so Big Boozer, he caught it first. And the first thing he did is he caught it and he had his back to the floor, he faced the baseline, caught it and took a dribble back to the baseline, which luckily he had the inbounder to get rid of it. But he almost put himself in a situation where he put himself in a worse situation than he was because he didn't catch and square. But it goes back to breaking down, teaching, and coaching kids. You can work on that moment in practice every day. And moment of the game, kid gets comfortable. It's a mistake the kid made. Will he make that mistake again at some point in his life? Oh yeah. Is he going to make that mistake again in a game? Let's say they play that next game, he gets trapped again, and he'll handle it better. But that's basketball. Sometimes you make mistakes that even though you prepare for them, you still make mistakes. So
right, and I was actually using it because I've always when I'm training kids and I'm working on the press, and I often tell them as soon as you catch the ball, when you turn and face, I said, fake like you're gonna make a pass. I said, and what do you think they're gonna do? They're gonna jump. I said, and once they jump, now you can attack them and dribble it, or you can make that bounce pass. But fake them up because they're always anticipating, which instinctively a lot of players just turn and try to throw it up. So had he had he faked it and bounce pass or just dribbled it out, it's a different thing. But I'm on board with you guys. It was just the feel that I got from hearing different respected people talk about that situation. It just kind of made me wonder, is that something that's changing? Because I remember I just got a reel, and I might have sent it to both of you, but it was showing Illinois and how Illinois is comprised of a lot of international players, and the thing was, is this the new trend where colleges are going to start to get these other players on? Now, the thing about what you said, Lee, about the being pros, that is an actual subject that we can tackle, because that needs this whole other thing with the loophole and stuff. So that's great information, and you can teach it, and that is one thing. Coaches get blamed for that kind of stuff, but it's not like coaches aren't preparing them. It's just sometimes when the pressure hits, some players, they don't respond the way they should. Now, I gotta pose this question. I gotta pose this thing to you guys, because it's always drove me crazy how, and you guys don't have to use, you guys don't get challenges, right, in games, but in the NBA level and now in the college level, teams get challenges to dispute something. And I know that there are a lot of calls that are like, oh, it happens so quick, the referee makes the call and he has to stand by it.